the staffing shortage in BC's healthcare system, which is not an exclusive problem to the province of BC, but rather pretty much the entire country. It's particularly bad in Western provinces. The East Coast hasn't been as bad, but BC has been particularly bad. Significant shortage of nurses, ER rooms closing for 12-hour periods at a time. 1 million British Columbians without access to a primary care practitioner. It's been, and again, this has been a slow building issue for many years, but the last couple of years have particularly accentuated the issue due to the pandemic. So it's really bad, and the province is it says it's going to address the issue by bringing in more foreign trained nurses. So they're working on a marketing campaign to quote, make the province a more desirable location for foreign trained nurses. And they've allocated $12 million to streamlining the process of bringing in foreign trained nurses. Because usually it takes a couple of years to get licensed and registered to work in BC, but they're streamlining that process. And also they haven't provided a timeline on when they're going to allow the province's unvaccinated nurses to return to work.
Yeah, that's another big kind of elephant in the room for a lot of those people. I mean, we've got vaccine mandates hanging in some of the province or some of the health authorities or different facilities even. But I mean, it's getting pretty bad and showing almost the ideological hang up, it seems, that some of these facilities have on vaccination when you're in the midst of a staffing crisis, but you still will not let the unvaccinated workers come back to work to ease it. And again, when it's been shown that at least the vaccination doesn't stop spread. So, I mean, it doesn't make a difference at this point. Guys, get off the horse and let these guys get back to work. I mean, I understand if vaccination stops spread. Okay, that's different. But how bad?
Yeah. And there are multiple legal challenges in the courts right now, a few of which I'll be covering this week. And some are a little more promising than others. Some I would expect to be thrown out and not get anywhere. But there are some legal challenges underway that are being taken very seriously. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. So getting on to some of your more recent stories as well. So there was a big meth bust. Unfortunately, we have the dubious honor of being the hosts of this guy, an Albertan. Looks like was trying to bring a massive amount of meth into BC there.
Yeah. Man was hiking on Vancouver Island, or he claims he was hiking. According to American documents, and a man approached him who he had never met before, offered him $1,000 to drive a boat to Washington, spend the night, and then drive it back with what he called luggage. And he maintains that he did not know what was in that luggage. And so he supposedly, and according to these American documents, took the offer, stayed in a hotel for the night, returned to the boat the next day. On his way back, he was about half a mile from being back in Canada, and he was picked up by American officials. And now he's being investigated by Homeland Security, because the Americans certainly don't take these issues lightly when it comes to drug trafficking.
Yeah, just a side note, since there's a commenter, Gail, asking if I said the vax stopped spreading. No, I said vaccination does not, in the case of COVID, just to clarify that. Because I get some people, you're a pro-vax, you're a monster, I'm unsubscribing, blah, blah, blah. No, not in this case. I'm still pro-vaccination, but I'm pro-choice. But no, I'm not trying to claim stuff spread. Okay, back to, I like to interact with the commenters. It's important. I mean, if something's unclear. But I mean, that amount of meth, I mean, BC's addiction crisis is even more acute than Alberta's right now. 650 kilograms. I mean, aside from this guy's flaky defense or whatever, that's very, very potent drug. I mean, that's a massive amount that unfortunately could and would have killed and addicted a countless number of people. But that's just the one they caught.
Yeah, that's just the one they caught. I mean, as we all know, BC has a very, very significant drug problem. Lots of meth, mostly opiates, though. I mean, it's more than 150 people are dying every day in this province. Every month, rather. It's about 6 people a day dying from illicit drugs in BC. So, yeah, this is definitely contributing to that problem. Although it is meth, so less people are overdosing on that, but it's still contributing to violent crime and and whatnot. The province is working on decriminalizing meth and cocaine and heroin and all of these hard drugs. They want to work on a decriminalization process and create what they call a safe supply, because in theory, according to the government, that will prevent the demand for the illicit drug trade.
Yeah, the government feels that the drug dealers are dangerous. So if the government gets into the drug business, they'll do it better because they've always been effective with that. I'm pretty sure there's no such thing as safe meth, but what do I know? Yeah. Thankfully, I don't take it. I mean, those poor people that get hooked on it. It's as you said, meth isn't the one that's typically causing the overdoses, but for those unfamiliar with a lot of addiction, meth is the one that kind of slowly eats them alive, though, when you see somebody so skinny and covered in sores and just sort of a walking zombie or freaking out. Often that's a matter of somebody's been on meth for a while. So it's more slow death than the fentanyl, but it's still a horrible death.
It's a common sight in Vancouver. It's all over the place on the downtown east side there. It's, people from out of town, they'll be walking in Gastown and they'll just walk the distance of 1 block. And suddenly it's like, like you're in a zombie movie.
Yeah, well, East Hastings in that area has always been notorious. I mean, even into the 80s, early 90s when we go out there, but I haven't been there in some years now, but I've heard it's gotten much worse even.
Absolutely. And I think that would actually be a good transition into the nearly $1 billion museum project that's going on in BC, because Liberal opposition Kevin Falcon has been criticizing the government for bringing forth this project while there is such a problem of drugs, violent crime, the nursing shortage, the doctor shortage. I feel like it's relevant to bring up. I've been covering quite a few stories on that since the news was announced earlier this month, and more will be coming.
So to frame that a bit, from what I know about this one, this is the big Royal BC Museum. They've basically declared the old one to be so colonial and so tainted and everything else that it just can't be salvaged. We got to get rid of it because it's inherently evil. And they're going to replace it with, well, they're saying, $800 million. But we know with government projects, that'll probably come in well over $1 billion for, I'm just going to guess, to be a monument to wokeness.
Yeah, that was sort of the focal point to begin with, was more of an identity politic focus. But that's transitioned in response to criticism to a focus on, the seismic danger. They're focusing on that it needs to be seismically upgraded, that it's prone to flooding, and that it's riddled with asbestos. And they're saying that the proposal that they've set forth is actually $3 million. No, I actually have the number. Yeah, $3 million cheaper than upgrading the existing building. So they might as well just tear it all down, build a new one. And Kevin Falcon said if he's elected as premier, he'll scrap the project. But according to the business case that the NDP government released last week, the demolition process will begin in March of 2024, which is 7 months prior to the next provincial election. So it won't make a difference. Even if he says he'll scrap it, by the time he gets into office, if he will, the building will already be torn down.
Yeah, and that's too bad because a lot could be lost. And as others are pointing out too, these are times when things are getting tight. I mean, Jennifer Schofield, a commenter, saying, try free rehab instead of free drugs. Well, you can spend a lot of money with $800 million on rehabilitation facilities. Or there was Cheryl, I think it was, brought up, $800 million could hire a heck of a lot of nurses back as well. Like as you wonder about the priorities with some things, but as you said, I mean, I can understand that some old buildings actually can't be rehabilitated or it's expensive. That happened in Calgary with the General Hospital. We had to blow it up, and the left still goes wild about that. Oh, you blew up a hospital. This thing was so ancient and out of date, though, that it just wasn't worth fixing. That might be the case of the museum, but a lot of what we heard on shutting down the old one wasn't based on that. They're kind of pivoting. It was more, it's a symbol of colonialism and that sort of thing.
Right. And the business case that they released last week was heavily redacted. Much of it was blacked out. So we don't really have a lot of detail on it, just a timeline and a rough cost, which they maintain is still going to be significantly cheaper than seismically upgrading it. But a lot of people have pointed out, a lot of critics have also said that if you're going to be consistent with the need to, seismically modernize buildings, then they should address, the elementary schools that need to be seismically upgraded, because there's a bunch of schools in BC that are waiting for their funding to renovate for that exact reason. So that's what critics are saying, at least.
Well, again, yeah, it's a matter of priorities. I mean, it'd be horrible to see, but if they're, Vancouver could, every seismologist says it could have a very big earthquake at some point, and I'd rather we deal with a bunch of squashed artifacts in a museum than a bunch of crushed children in a school. So,
yeah,
first things first. So, going a little further, I guess, getting onto municipal crazy governments. Just seeing down your stories there, it looks like the Vancouver's looking to punish gas stations if they don't have electric vehicle charging setups.
Yeah, by 2025, Vancouver gas stations, right now they pay a business license fee of $253 a year. And that will raise to $10,000 a year in 2025, unless if they haven't put in one EV charging station of 50 kilowatts. And then commercial parking lots pay a slightly cheaper annual fee, and that will also be raised to $10,000 if they don't put in a minimum of 4 charging stations with a minimum of 26.6 kilowatts per station.
I can't imagine these stations are very cheap to install.
No, they're the gas stations are looking at a minimum of $100,000. Or sorry, the commercial lots are looking at $100,000. The gas stations are looking at least $130,000.
Yeah, and that really depends on the gas station. I mean, some might have a big parking area where perhaps they could find a couple appropriate spaces, but if you've got a small one, you might not even have room to stick that on your lot. And the other thing, I don't know about Vancouver, but we've got charging stations all over the city of Calgary. You can tell where they are because there's no cars in front of them.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I forgot to mention the gas stations, regardless of the size, will have to will be subject to this coming policy. But commercial parking lots that have fewer than 60 parking stalls will be exempt.
Well, I guess that's a small relief. I mean, it's a big investment for a smaller parking lot, but still.
Yeah, wow, it's part of Vancouver's climate emergency plan that was set forth in 2020, which aims to reduce the city's carbon emissions by 50% of 2007 levels by 2030. And also by 2030, it wants to ensure that 50% of all kilometers driven in the city of Vancouver are done so in zero emission vehicles.
Yeah, good luck with that. But well, I guess if they bankrupt enough people, there'll be a lot of people walking and riding bikes, and they won't be able to, reach their targets that way. Well, you're in the land of the woke, I guess.
Yeah, that I am.
We're not immune. What we see in Vancouver this year is what's coming here in 3 years. So,
yeah.
But, are there any court challenges pushing back on that again? I mean, this is the sort of thing that honestly, for some smaller businesses, could actually break them.
Pushing back on the EV charges?
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of at this point. I haven't seen any court cases pushing back on that. Again, at least 60-70% of the gas stations already have chargers. I mean, it's become pretty widespread recently. So I don't know the exact number of how many gas stations do not have EV chargers in Vancouver right now, but they're definitely in the minority. I mean, there's not that many gas stations in the city to begin with. I think it's less than 70.
Oh, really? Okay. Most are out towards getting into Abbotsford and Burnaby and all through there. Certainly
66 to be exact.
Okay, so people kind of move more to the suburbs to fill up, anyways. But still, even a small amount being abused is too many in my view as far as businesses go. But okay, we'll wrap up with something a little more light and from the world of the bizarre. And you can see at the bottom of the story there, everybody's favorite transgender activist, Jessica Yaniv, is her court's finished. She's been found guilty of assault.
Yep. She has been found guilty of assault. Jessica Yaniv, formerly Jonathan Yaniv, biological male, transitioned, goes by actually she calls herself Jessica Simpson now. She legally changed her name to that.
Striking resemblance. I could see people getting that mixed up.
Yeah, I actually did genuinely get it messed up at first. I needed to be corrected. Yeah, so that court case wrapped up. That was a former Rebel News journalist, Kian Bext. He was covering a court case that Yaniv was leaving from regarding weapons charges. So he started asking her questions She then attacked him, and the camera went sideways, but you could see in the video that's embedded there, you could see what looks like punches were being thrown. And yeah, the judge did find Yaniv guilty of assault. And Yaniv will actually be in court again next month for, I don't know if you're familiar with Billboard Chris Elston. He travels around the country with a sign saying children cannot consent to puberty blockers. Yeah, he was also attacked by Yaniv a couple of years ago, and that hearing will take place next month. So I'll be covering that.
Okay, well, as much as we kind of look at it as a bit of dark comedy, honestly, it appears that Miss Yaniv has some mental issues to be dealt with. I hope actually perhaps in sentencing they can get her some help, because she's actually got some serious problems going on, that one. But it's hard not to turn away from that accident sometimes as you're watching it go. So for her sake and everybody else, hopefully this is a closure and moving on to a better part of her life, I guess. So before I let you go, is there anything you're working on you want to let us know about, or things coming up?
Yeah, just stay tuned for decisions that will be coming out regarding constitutional challenges to previous COVID-related orders. A lot of those are concluding in a close time frame right now. So we're going to be expecting a big decision possibly this week. Within a couple of weeks at the latest, regarding the legality of the vaccine passport system in BC. Chief Justice of the Supreme Court he'll be releasing his decision on whether it was constitutionally sound in the coming days.
Great. Well, we're looking forward to it. So thanks for that extended update on the Wet Coast there, Reid. Always good to talk to you, and keep up the good work.
Likewise. Thanks very much, Corey.